What's good, Hoof listeners? Welcome back to the Hoof Podcast as we get you ready for week 6 of the NFL. Flying through the weeks.
Woo!
Like just yesterday is week 2. But sitting here with Anthony, it's just a little awkward without the overlay on there. When the music's playing, normally we have
We're bobbing
live, we have an overlay. We're kind of hiding behind it before, until the music stops. But this time, the overlay was having some issues, so we got to dance. We had to dance to kind of.
Yeah, I'm always dancing behind the scenes, getting myself hyped for the show, ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, if we did have some live listeners, they'd probably be gone by now because my dance moves not great.
Bringing them in, reeling them in with that one, yeah. Come for the dancing, stay for the NFL talk, right?
Yes, yeah. So what's going on, Anthony? What's new? Anything new? We only talked 2 days ago.
I know, right? Yeah, not much, man. Just, still looking for tickets to the game. Decided to wait it out a little bit, and that was a good decision so far. They've already dropped a little bit coming into today, and we're just waiting for the right package here. I'm going with my brother and his son, my nephew. My nephew's a Bills fan, which is awesome, but my brother is a Giants fan, so it'll be a fun game to go to. We've had it planned for a while. Tickets over the summer were like $500 just to get in, right? Like 300 level. It was insane. We were like, okay, we can't afford that right now. And now those seats are back to reasonable, $150 to get in the upper
same
deck
section.
Oh, in the upper deck, yeah. And then if you want to go lower, I mean, I think there was some that were end zone corner for like $250 or less, right? So that's pretty good. And if it's dropping now, I think once they announce that Daniel Jones and Saquon are out, I'd imagine they'd fall again.
Right. Yeah. People from New York, New Jersey area don't want to go on the trip now if
they're going to resell them.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's what we're hoping for.
You can make decent money off your purchase, right?
We'll probably pull the trigger pretty soon because I don't want to wait too long. But you gotta see what you can get. There just weren't a lot of good seats available because it was so in demand. But now it's not so much.
Yeah, it's a good game to go to. Brian Daboll heading back to Buffalo. He's actually from Buffalo.
Yeah.
He's coached all over the world, it seems, or the country at least. Alabama, New England, Miami, right? Coached the Jets for a while as a running back coach. But seemed to have the most success or make the name for himself in Buffalo, which, is special, right? That's, you're from there and you kind of got your head coaching name. So that's the big story for the Giants Bills game is Daboll back. It is kind of a shame that they're not going to have their full team, right? They're not going to be able to give their best effort.
Right. And they've been struggling. I mean, just the way their year has started has not been ideal for them, obviously. Not what they expected coming in, not what I expected coming in. And certainly injuries exacerbate all of that, right? So lots to talk about to preview this game, but not a lot of positive coming from the Giants end right now.
Right, and so that brings us to the second storyline is Tyrod Taylor making his return to Buffalo, played a number of years there, was, the Bills, probably the Bills' best quarterback, what's from 2015. I'd say there's a 10-year span there where Tyrod probably was the best quarterback the Bills had. Maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick, but it was highs and lows with him. Tyrod very steady for the Bills. I mean, we were all hopeful at the time that he was the guy. He was going to become something, right? But it seems like for Tyrod, hit that ceiling, just couldn't get over the ceiling. Okay, this guy's an average quarterback at best, and he's kind of stuck with that, and this is why he's had a long career. You always hear he's a professional, all these things, and his talent level is probably a backup, one of the better backups, and that remains true today. So looks like he may get the start this weekend. Daniel Jones has a sore neck. No details on the neck, at least through the press conference for the Giants, but you don't want to mess with the neck too much, right?
Still didn't practice on Thursday, which is a pretty good indicator that you are not going to play on Sunday, right? So not a good sign for him. Not sure what's exactly up, but I mean, that offensive line has been Swiss cheese the last few weeks. I mean, he has been getting absolutely wrecked back there. So understandable that he is suffering a little bit from injuries and being bit up. Just hopefully it's something he can bounce back from and play in the next couple games or so. But I wouldn't be disappointed if he doesn't play in this game. I can tell you that much. I'd much rather go up against Tyrod Taylor, although he has, some feelings of revenge towards the Bills. When it comes to talent, obviously Daniel Jones is the starter for a reason. He can do a lot more than Tyrod can. And we've seen the limitations of one Tyrod Taylor as well, especially behind a line that is Swiss cheese and our pass rush. It should be quite the lopsided matchup if that's how it is.
Yes, good point. Bills lead the league in sacks with 21 on the season, and the Giants have allowed the most sacks on the season so far this season's with 30.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Not a good combination right there. That spells disaster for whoever's behind center there.
Which is pretty surprising too, because we were kind of high on the Giants after last season.
Right. A lot of people were, yeah.
And the Giants have had a kind of I'll say a bad roster for a number of years. Right. When you play Madden, everyone wants to pick the Giants because it has the most bare bones roster. But they've had so many high picks that they've kind of accumulated talent through the draft. And, they got new left tackle and Andrew Thomas, new right tackle and Evan Neal, obviously Saquon Barkley. And Daniel Jones, top 10 pick. It started to come together a little bit. Kind of saw that come together last season. And this season just seems like they're just not the same at all.
Yeah, they seem to get better with what they added in the offseason. There was a lot of hype, obviously. I think the problem starts with you set a precedent for exceeding expectations last year. They could have sucked last year and nobody would have blinked an eye, right? New coach, trying to figure it all out. You give Daniel Jones the big contract. You decide that he is going to be your quarterback of the future. And you try and start to build around him, right? They brought in a lot of offensive pieces. But little by little, that's been broken down as football is actually being played, and the luck isn't quite going your way as it was last season. And now, because you were setting expectations, set the bar at, okay, we've made the playoffs, that's our goal. We're going to get there in our second year of what should have been kind of a rebuild. Now you're stuck in between rebuild and success, and you're not succeeding. It's certainly not a good recipe. If you're the Giants in that organization. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do moving forward if this season ends up being a bust. They're not in a situation to draft a quarterback, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. They're a 1-4 team, and their win came against the Arizona Cardinals when they're down 21 points. You really had to get on Daniel Jones' back and, claw their way back into that game and get the win. So not a good look. It looks like this season's going to get away from them, especially now. Quarterback's injured and Daniel Jones. The Giants are probably in must-win mode. If the season's going to have any kind of result or any kind of hopes of getting to the wild card, I think this has got to be the week that you say you can't go 1-5, right? This would be the last hope, and your quarterback's hurt, so it is looking that way that the Giants are not going to have a great season, right?
Right. I don't think any Giants fan is saying, okay, this is going to be the game that we start momentum in the right direction, given their injury report is longer than their active roster right now. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous how many injuries they have, and again, that's a lot of bad luck, but also the guys who are out there, some of them aren't playing very well. So, it's not a good combination for success. And yeah, I think after this game, the reevaluation or the what can you do next to reconcile where we are is going to be what they have to ask themselves, right? You can play for that high draft pick, but you're sticking with Daniel Jones. You've got to rebuild that offensive line. I know they brought guys in over the last couple of years, but it has not worked out for the better so far. And I don't see that being the case. Now it's something that has clearly been the reason why they're doing so terribly.
Yeah. And so makes you wonder what does the future hold for this team? Offensive line, obviously, Saquon Barkley on his last year, he'll be an unrestricted free agent next year if they don't sign him long-term. And then Daniel Jones just signed a long deal. He's under contract through 2026. He has a $47 million hit next year, 2024. And I did hear they have an out. The Giants have an out in 2025. So if this team ends up getting a top 5 pick because their rosters are so bad or their record's so bad, you got to go quarterback, right? No way they stick with Daniel Jones, I would say. I haven't seen enough from him, you know? He seems pretty limited as a quarterback, not to mention Joe Sheen, Brian Daboll did not draft Daniel Jones. They have no connections as far as building a roster.
Yeah, exactly. But they committed to him, right? They're the ones who signed him long term now to that 47 million or whatever it is per year. And to me, that still causes problems, right? I think if they ended up with a top 5 pick, they're going to be tempted to trade out of it for one of those quarterbacks, right? The question is, do you stay and take one of the quarterbacks if the quarterback you want is there? Presumably, you're not getting the number 1 overall pick, or maybe even the number 2. I'd say max they'd get is 3 or 4 or 5. And so I think the temptation would be, or the one of the smart options could be to trade out of it and get more picks in the draft this year, that year, and the next to say, okay, this is going to be our rebuild mode. Now we have 4 or 5 first round picks that we can play with to pick some offensive linemen, to pick some guys that'll fill roster holes as guys end up leaving, and to build around, right? These are your foundations for the future. Whereas, like you said, this regime didn't draft Daniel Jones, didn't draft Saquon Barkley. So I expect that there will be some major changes on the roster. But again, they gave the contract to Daniel Jones. So although there is an out, it'll be interesting to see which route they take come then. I think it'll depend on how much Daniel Jones shows them the rest of this season. But again, behind an offensive line that's Swiss cheese, even the best quarterbacks aren't going to be able to get much done. I don't know where to set expectation, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you're in the top 5 in a good quarterback class, which next year will be, if you have the 5th or 6th pick, you're going to get a guy. You know what I mean? I know it's going to fall off and it's going to change a lot between now and draft season, but I mean, to me, it seems like you got to take your shot if you have it, you know, and have him compete with Daniel Jones. I think you play out that 2024 year. You hope the rookie beats him out. If not, you have him there. He can act as a mentor, highest paid mentor in the league, and then you move on in 2025.
Highest paid mentor in the league, $50 million. Yeah, that's a pretty big chunk.
Right. A lot of that depends. If you get Caleb Williams, I mean, the fans will be tearing the building down to watch him play, week 1.
Certainly.
But if you can get one of these other guys, Michael Penix or maybe Quentin Ewers from Texas, I mean, one of those guys who maybe is not as famous or as highly sought after as Caleb Williams, you can afford to sit him for a year. We've seen that play out well for some teams. Pat Mahomes, for example, sat for his whole rookie season. But that's where the Giants are right now, and those are the conversations that they need to be having, right? They're going to be having throughout the season as this thing gets away from them. Their division's not easy, right? Philadelphia looks the same. Dallas looks like a contender, and Washington's better than last year. The Giants are certainly looking like the bottom of the NFC East.
Yeah, I've seen some rankings that have them ranked as the worst team in football right now. I think that's a little harsh given the fact that there are other teams in pretty bad situations. Look at even in our division, right? The Patriots are looking pretty gross right now, and there's other teams that are underperforming. But the Giants certainly are one of those biggest fallers for sure. And it's disappointing for them. They have to be able to regroup and do something this year, show something. Those guys are still auditioning for their jobs on this team. And don't get me wrong, they're going to come out and play with heart against the Buffalo Bills because Brian Daboll is their coach. I just don't know if it's even possible for them to get enough done.
Yeah, I know it's funny too. Is this is the biggest line on the week. The Giants are plus 14.5 at Buffalo. That's pretty telling that I don't think Daniel Jones is playing, right? Like the coaches aren't going to say that in the press conferences and things, but Vegas certainly thinks it's Tyrod Taylor.
Vegas is saying that, yeah. Well, and they've seen that offensive line versus the defensive line of the Bills, like we've said already. The line has fluctuated a little bit. So I think at one point it was minus 12, I think was the lowest I've seen it. I was checking now. Yeah, it is still 14.5 on BetMGM. So yeah, it's reasonable considering. Normally, I always say anything above 10. This is the NFL. that's, dangerous. I am feeling pretty comfortable at 2 touchdowns or more in this game, especially given that the Bills are coming off their worst, well, maybe not their worst, but a terrible game this season overseas, and now they've got to reestablish themselves back at home to say, "You know what? You can't just we aren't that team that you saw there. You can't just get rid of us this easily." And now they're playing an inferior opponent, at least on paper, at home. It's got to be another one of those 35-point plus 4 touchdown victories. I expect them to go all out, the Bills, and not let up against an inferior opponent, basically, especially coming off a loss. Had they won in London, maybe there's a chance that you can catch the Bills sleeping, but now they're all on their toes, especially after those big injuries. There's a lot of guys that have to step up and show that, hey, we're for real about this and we can come in and be just as effective, or show that we are legitimate starters, because those are very high bars, again, to set. Nobody's going to replace Matt Milano. Nobody's going to replace Daquan Jones, but to come in there and establish that this defense could still be dominant with them in it, and that the offense is able to be, what we saw in those past 3 weeks before the Jags game, instead of, the disappointing one, making a lot of mistakes, having a lot of penalties. I don't think the Bills are going to beat themselves, and I think they're going to find a rhythm and stay in it in this game.
Sure, yeah, I don't think the Bills have to go above and beyond. I mean, if they just keep playing the way they've been playing, minus the cold streak we saw in the first half of Jacksonville and London, I think the Bills are going to be just fine. It wouldn't be odd to expect a 30-point win like we've seen in previous weeks. One of those easy Sundays. It is a Sunday night game at home for Buffalo. I mean, that's the is it the first primetime home game? Yeah, because they played at the Jets for the primetime Monday.
Yeah,
night,
last year.
Yeah, so
it's in a while
big.
For sure. Yeah, I mean,
I guess the big thing is, okay, minus the Bills beating themselves, which is unlikely at this point. Can Tyrod Taylor put together a game and have his best game of his career? What are the odds? What do you think?
Like percentage wise, I'd give it a solid above 1%, 1.5%. I mean, I'm pretty confident that the Bills know exactly who Tyrod is. There's no clicking going on that offense. There's no Saquon is also not expected to play in this game, right? So it's not like they can resort to the run game in order to establish a quick pass game. Matt Breida might be the starting running back, and he hasn't really been a starter much of his career, and he's been a reliable backup, but now he's getting older. He's not shown anything yet this season. They just haven't been able to get their weapons going. And again, another familiar name, let's not forget about Isaiah Hodgins, is on that team too, right?
Sure.
Could Tyrod find Isaiah Hodgins for a big play? Maybe, but Isaiah Hodgins has been silent in that offense this year as well. He has 1 touchdown and pretty much barely any yardage in the games so far. And really that's, the entire offense. So to say that Tyrod's going to provide a spark and somehow motivate this team and somehow get them to show something that they haven't showed all year, I have very, very little faith that will happen.
Yeah, that's fair. And this receiving core, that's not really Tyrod's strength, right? He's a throw it to space, open space. So you'd like to see a lot of speed. I don't think the Giants are that type of team. They don't have a ton of speed in the receiving core. Maybe Paris Campbell, but he's just not. He has struggles to find the space, right? It seems like Darren Waller as well, somebody to pay attention to. But again, I think the Giants are going to be outmatched in this game. Just can't. It's hard to find avenues for the Giants to even get some points in this game, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think they might fall into a few field goals, but I don't see them, other than maybe in garbage time when everybody's on the bench, and maybe then they're able to get something going. But something tells me even our 5th, 6th pass rushers are going to go through this line. I mean, I've seen a few of these Giants games. I've watched them on TV, and I would go as far as to say it's the worst offensive line play I've seen in a very long time, if not ever. I mean, there's no chance. Daniel Jones was getting crushed back there. Tyrod, he's a little more elusive, maybe, I don't know, or a little better at getting the ball out when he needs to. So maybe he won't get hit as much or won't get sacked as much, but it's not going to lead to positive plays, even against our scrubs, even against the guys who are on the field when you're up 30 points. So, yeah, I don't imagine it being, a lot of momentum for points in the Giants' favor.
Yeah. Yeah. Giants are definitely struggling right now. And we've seen this with both New York teams, in the past few seasons. But currently, Giants are 30th in pass offense. That's passing yardage. They only have 2 touchdowns through the air on the season. Rushing offense, which is supposed to be their strength, they are 22nd. Scrolling down here, scoring offense, averaging 12.4 points a game. That's 31st in the
Oh
league,
my God.
only ahead of the New England Patriots, which
I
is
told you, yeah,
pretty
that's
shocking. Pretty
oh,
shocking.
they got shut out twice, so that's, yeah. Ugh.
And then on third down conversion, their third down percentage, they are at 35.6. That's 26 in the league. Jets are dead last in that one, 32nd. And then scoring drives, how many drives turn into a score? The percentage is at 22%. They are 31st, the only team worse, New England Patriots.
Wow.
So it's been pretty brutal for the Giants on offense.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
now you don't have your starting quarterback, and it looks like Saquon might be questionable. I'm not really sure the extent of his injury, but he's been limited this week in practice, so not great, right? And if you're Dayball, like, why even put Saquon out there just to get him re-injured? I think
think
you
that's
take a
why
week, get healthy, come back next week, and try to get some W's. But this is not the right week as far as the timing goes, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's exactly why you leave him out, because it would be it's the smart thing to do. Even if Dayball's like, you know what, I'm coming home. I've coached this team. This is where I came from, both as my hometown and coaching wise, most recently. And there's a chip on my shoulder, and I want to put my best guys out there. But reasonably, for the organization and for the sake of Saquon's career, you can't put him out there and feed him to the slaughter, right? The Bills have been very good, actually, at stiffing the run in a lot of situations. They've given up a couple big runs, but you look at the stat sheets overall, and a lot of those runs have gone for 0 or negative yardage. So, and again, behind that offensive line, I can't imagine Saquon's going to suddenly get some momentum going and start feeling good when he's already at least hurting or injured, right? So give him more rest. I think that ultimately the organization will decide to do that because it's the right thing to do, unless he's feeling 100%. And, see what happens with Matt Breida and whoever else you put out there.
Right, so give it a go. So you taking the points here, plus 14.5? Are you taking the Bills to cover?
Yes. I mean, I think this is going to be a pounding. So I'm in the range of Bills 38, Giants 6. So, I mean,
Okay.
I do think the Giants will muster a couple field goals, but I don't see them getting much else
Okay, and
positive.
I'm going to go 30-9. Giants get 3 field goals,
There you go.
and the Bills take it easy on them at the end.
No garbage time touchdown, though. We're not even giving them that much.
Yep, so that's about the extent of it. Any other topics? I mean, look,
Yeah, I mean,
Bills
it's
coming off that bad loss. We just want to see them
right.
bounce back, right? This is a bounce back game
There's
for the Bills side of things. You want to see them, continue their success that they had in the previous 3 weeks before the London trip, and
yes.
kind of get back to normal here, right?
I would say my expectations, one, get James Cook going again, right? You got to get him positive again. He had 2 great games already this year and a couple that were kind of duds. We want to see him getting going, feeling consistent, right? And I want to see Josh Allen get some of those other pieces involved. We talked on the other show about Dalton Kincaid, and is he going to be more targets? Now he's dealing with a concussion. We don't know if he's going to be cleared before the game. But if not, then Dawson Knox, right? Get him going in this game. There's, other targets as well. Some of those wide receiver 3, 4, 5 that have been silent so far this year. I think this is an opportunity to draw some plays up and see what you got, and let them start building chemistry and momentum, and feeling that, using that to carry over into some of the games coming up.
Yeah, is there any worry at all that Brian Daboll knows Josh Allen's secret weaknesses from
Ha!
coaching him? Look, this is Brian Daboll's offense, right? Looks Ken Dorsey kind of took over, added his flavor, but this is really the fundamental of this offense is
Sure.
Brian Daboll.
Sure, but I liken that to, I just laugh every time somebody's like, "Well, this coach knows that player." Yes, that's great. Yeah, you might know his weaknesses, but guess what? That's still Josh Allen out there, all right? He could tell you his weaknesses and still beat you, all right? So, he
Yes.
could give you a list at the beginning of the game and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not too great at these things." And you're still not gonna beat him, right? So it's easier said than done. I don't think I mean, sure, it might be, his tendencies or something about like, okay, when he rolls out this way, he's not as good. So we want to get him rolling out that way. Yes, obviously Daboll's more familiar with that and more familiar with his weaknesses. I don't think that gives him any kind of edge or advantage because the Bills know that as well, and they're ready for that. And Josh Allen knows that, and he's ready for it.
Mhm.
So I think the game plan is prepared with that in mind,
Yeah.
and that in general, I don't like that idea of, well, he knows him and he's going to know how to beat him.
Well,
No, because they're
yeah,
prepared to.
and the flip side of that, the Bills defense plays against the Bills offense in practice, in training camp,
Correct.
the
Yeah.
offseason. So they've also, got a lot of familiarity with the offense. So the beauty of continuity, right? There's just not a lot of teams like this is Josh Allen's 6th year in this system, and it's just you just don't see that a lot, right, around the league. Uh, so it's kind of interesting. Full circle. But anyway, let's jump
Positive.
into these other games. We got a whole lineup here. We're gonna pick every single game. Some good matchups. We are having bye weeks, so the list is a little shorter than normal. We are into the bye weeks, but yeah, let's roll into it here. 1:00 games. Here we go. Carolina at the Miami Dolphins. Carolina plus 13.5 at Miami. And this one's a little surprising. I thought the Giants spread would be a little lower than the Carolina Miami spread because Miami does run up the score, right? So it's
Correct, but the
kind of
problem is
interesting.
that Miami does also give up points, and Carolina has not been inept at scoring points, right? They're still putting points on the board as well, just not as many as their opponents have. So I do think Carolina scores a little in this game. They could get 20 points, and it wouldn't surprise me. But the Miami offense versus Carolina, I mean, I fully expect them to cover this. So I'm taking Miami minus 13.5, 2 touchdowns. I mean, I think they do that pretty easily, barring any ridiculousness in garbage time or something. Although we've seen that the Dolphins haven't exactly let up on in those situations either. So yeah, I'm taking Miami. I just think they have the momentum going in the right way. Carolina just isn't ready for it. This is another game where if you're the coaches in Carolina, you're saying, okay, this is what it's like to go up against a juggernaut. Let's see what happens and, play your best, make some plays. Let's see who's got it and who doesn't. And it's going to be a good test for them and a good growing moment for them, but not a good scoring situation for them. So
Sure.
I'll take Miami with minus the points.
And Bryce Young looking like the weakest quarterback in this class so far
I said
through
that.
5 weeks.
I did not.
Look, I think Bryce will figure it out, but again, I was higher on the other guys just
Definitely.
because the size thing, right? And I'm always big on that. I have been for years. I mean, I liked Herbert over Tua, Josh Allen over the other guys. I mean, I always go that way.
Yeah.
But Bryce Young, the only rookie not have a win, who was drafted out of those starting guys, right? I mean, Will Levis was second round, but not playing yet, and he's the only starting quarterback in the league without a win so far. He's 0-4.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
let's
mean,
jump on to the next one here. We have the Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears. Minnesota -3 at Chicago.
yeah.
Man, we've seen Chicago so high and so low this season. Just they're kind of a tough one to measure. Minnesota, I mean, again, Kirk Cousins leading the league in yards, is leading the league in passing touchdowns, but they're struggling with the turnovers, right?
Yes, and they just lost Justin Jefferson to the IR. However, I think Minnesota is being underestimated in this one. Everybody's writing them off because things haven't gone their way, right? We've talked about this on the show. Last year, every game went their way. This year, none of the games have gone
Right.
their way, basically, in those close one-score games, especially. To me, this is a game where we're going to see them clicking a little more. They are better than the Chicago Bears. The Bears finally got a win last week. I think a lot of that had to do with rallying around the death of Dick Butkus. And that's awesome to see. But I think Minnesota is going to come out and show what they can do, even without Justin Jefferson. I've been high on Addison all year, as you know. A lot of the receivers there have done a little more. I think Minnesota has the weapons to target and get at the weaknesses of Chicago. They can still run the ball too. So I think Chicago will put up points, but Minnesota is going to win by at least a touchdown in my mind. This is one of my pick sixes, if you haven't figured that out by now. So I'm taking Minnesota -3. I've heard a lot of people on Chicago this week, though.
Yeah, like you said, it's a good point that last year Minnesota they led the league in fourth quarter comebacks, game-winning drives. I mean, they just had that magic last year. Seems like the offense is roughly the same as far as efficiency and things like that. But really the big stat here, leading the league in turnovers, and they've had 8 fumbles lost. Rough. That's the big one. So it's, the luck comes and then the luck goes. You can't rely on that. So that just seems to be where Minnesota is. I'll take them to beat Chicago. I like the spread as well. So, all right, next one we have the Baltimore Ravens at the Tennessee Titans. Baltimore is -4 at Tennessee. Tennessee, another one of those teams. You get good weeks and you get bad weeks. I'd say more bad than good at this point. But Baltimore, they seem to be a contender right in the AFC.
Yes, I don't think either one of these teams has hit the stride that they're looking for quite yet, right? Baltimore coming off a loss to Pittsburgh. I think they're going to be a little more active and attentive in this game. But Tennessee also has a lot to prove, and this would be a great game for them to be able to bounce back and say, hey, look, we are a team that can contend in these situations. So I'm doing exactly that. I'm taking Baltimore to win the game, but I think it's going to be close, like a field goal game. So I'm taking Tennessee with the points. Give me Tennessee +4, but Baltimore to win.
Okay, so you like the spread. I'm going Baltimore and Baltimore to cover here. Just Baltimore, I think, is a complete football team. And, Lamar Jackson has got a lot more weapons this year. As long as those running backs can stay healthy, I think they're going to be in it for the long haul. So I'm taking Baltimore. All right, we have the Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars, AFC South divisional matchup. The Colts are +4 at Jacksonville. Anthony Richardson hits the IR, so he's out. We'll have Gardner Minshew. Jonathan Taylor back in the mix. Got a few carries last week, but not a ton. Zach Moss was the big story for the Colts last week. And then obviously we know what happened to the Jaguars coming home from their 2-week stay in London. How are we feeling about this game?
Yeah, the question is, can the Colts catch them sleeping, figuratively, obviously coming back from their trip and feeling good about themselves after 2 weeks in London? I do think that the Colts will keep this game closer. I think the Colts are a better team with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, right? This is not a rookie. This guy knows what he's doing, can build chemistry with those weapons. They have Zach Moss, who was on fire last week. Jonathan Taylor's back. I think they're going to make some noise in this game. So this is another one where I think keeping it close, 4 points is just enough for me to take Indy +4 because I think it'll be a field goal game or less. I do expect Jacksonville to win. I think it's going to be too close for them. For comfort, they might even be down in the fourth quarter and have to come back and score a game-winning field goal or a touchdown to go back ahead. So give me the Colts +4 in this one.
Okay, like the Colts. Yeah, Colts have been playing tough, but I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I think they're going to be riding high off that big win last week. They are expected to win the division. I don't think anybody picked anybody else to win this division with the rookie quarterbacks. So you got to hit that stride, right? I think their offensive play calling was pretty good last week. If that can carry over, I think they win a close one. But I'm going to take Jacksonville to win by at least 4. 28-24. How's that sound?
Oh, so that's a push. That's a push in your book, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's a divisional matchup too, right? All right, we got San Francisco 49ers at the Cleveland Browns. San Francisco -9.5 at Cleveland. Weird story about Deshaun Watson going on right now is he's medically cleared but not playing. A little
Yeah,
bit
not
weird. A little
sure
bit
what
weird.
exactly is going on there. Maybe they're just waiting for second clearance or something to happen, that he's feeling all right to come back. But this game, if he plays, this could be an interesting matchup in my mind. Not because the Browns' offense is really good, or I do like the Browns' defense, and San Francisco has clearly been, I would say, the best team in football so far this season. When you see them play, but this could be a game where momentum shifts a little for Cleveland and San Francisco, right? It could be a back and forth game. This line has also moved. When it was -7, I took San Francisco -7. Now it's -9.5, and they've got me wondering, right? Like, can Cleveland's defense do enough to hold them? So I'm going to stick with San Francisco at -9.5 until they show us otherwise. But this one is certainly one I'm going to avoid for the weekend because I am wary that if Cleveland starts to click it in this game, they could make it a tough matchup and a closer game than expected.
Yeah, fair. I got to go San Francisco again. They just been blowing teams out, and these Brock Purdy stats are just mind blowing for me. 9 touchdowns for Brock Purdy, no interceptions on the season.
Yeah,
He's the highest rated quarterback rating, both NFL and ESPN. Josh Allen is second, but Brock Purdy sits at the top by himself. They
insane.
haven't lost a game, no interceptions. I mean, Myles Garrett could definitely maybe give them some problems, which I don't think they've seen a ton. Like nobody's really disrupting this offense. They're letting them execute. Brock Purdy's getting the ball out. He's throwing it where he wants to. The guy has great anticipation in his throws. How do you disrupt that? We got to get to the quarterback in less than 2 seconds, right? And then Myles Garrett's certainly capable of that.
Yes.
It's a real shame that if Deshaun Watson is medically cleared, he should play because they have. I would like to see this matchup. I'd like to see Cleveland upset them, right? That would be a huge momentum
Yes.
getter. Could be a turning point in the season. But again, obviously, I'm not going to force somebody out who's not healthy, and I don't want to see someone who's hurt play. It's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying, high paid quarterback. It's time to change this narrative in Cleveland. This is the opportunity. I'm still taking San Francisco.
Yep. Gotta prove it first.
Exactly. So let's go Saints
Oh,
at the Texans. New Orleans is -1.5 at Houston. I know you've been high on Houston in the offseason, and that looks to be paying off for you.
yeah.
Um, yeah, really. CJ Stroud was really. I underestimated him coming into the league. The guy looks the part, right? And right
Just
out
like
the
I
gate,
told you he would.
looking the part.
I'm not gonna sit here and take all the royalties, but it's on record that I was very high on CJ Stroud in this offense with these players that he has. By far the best situation of the rookie quarterbacks, I thought, and that's why I thought he would come out and look the best. And he has, even better than I expected. 300 yards, no interceptions, all that. It's certainly quite the start to his young career. However, I've also been very high on the Saints in terms of where the lines have been and what their momentum is and how much they can get going. They haven't quite been clicking on all cylinders. Their defense has looked okay and then looked bad. Their offense has not really found a good, smooth rhythm. And the Texans are playing really, really well right now. So this is a game I struggled with. But of course, I'm sticking with the Texans. I do think that this will be a close game. Obviously, Vegas does too. It's pretty much a pick 'em. Maybe that 0.5 point edge will be the difference. But I'm taking the Texans at home with the points, 1.5 points.
Okay, I'm going to go New Orleans. I mean, they embarrassed New England last week, 34 to
They
nothing.
did.
The Saints have the fifth least amount of yards allowed on defense, and they have 7 interceptions on the season. That's also fourth in the league. Um, the Texans averaging 23 points a game. I mean, that's good. They're 12th. I mean, I'm impressed with the Texans, but I'm still going the Saints. I think the Saints are a better team at this point. If you
Yeah.
ask me again in a few weeks, I may have that change, but as of now, I like the Saints. All right, here we go. Next one, we have the Seattle Seahawks at the Cincinnati Bengals. Seahawks are +2.5 at Cincinnati. This is an important game for both teams. I feel like Cincinnati probably needs this a little more, but if Seattle's going to really be in the mix, right, at the end of the season for a wild card spot, You got to keep pace.
Mm-hmm.
Got to keep pace, and it looks like the Rams are going to be pushing. So, this is a pretty
Yeah,
big game.
it is probably one of the biggest of the weekend, I would say. The benefit here is Seattle's coming off a bye, right? So they've had time to prepare. They're feeling a little healed up. Cincy had their best game last week. Obviously, it was a very low bar, but against Arizona, they actually started clicking on offense. No T. Higgins. He might be back this week. Questionable. We'll see what that offense looks like. But it was against Arizona, right? Now you're playing a team in Seattle that can go toe-to-toe with you on offense and defense. I feel like these are two very comparable teams, right? When you talk about the receiving core, when you talk about the running backs, when you talk about everything, they're very, very comparable. And for that reason, I'm taking the points, right? So Seattle plus 2.5, I think, is where I have to end up on this one, just because, I think Seattle's going to win this game, and therefore they're getting points as well. I like that matchup. I like the advantage of the bye week. We'll see. I expect this to be a pretty big fight and a probably high scoring affair. So bet the over as well. But yeah, I have to go Seattle for those reasons.
Yeah, I'm going to go Seattle as well. I mean, I understand the Bengals are last in the AFC North right now, and they're just giving up a ton of yards, right? 114 points allowed on the season, only 83 points for. And Seattle 3-1, they've won 3 games in a row, right? I think they have the momentum, and I think everyone's going to look at the passing game and the receivers, but the real answer, I think, is Seattle's run game is very difficult to deal with, and their defense looks great. Devin Witherspoon looks like a stud for them, so I like where Seattle's at, and I'm gonna take them in this game. Also, would be nice to see Cincinnati go to 2-4.
Yes, for the
As a
AFC
Bills fan, all right.
Always root for the NFC over the AFC.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Washington Commanders at the Atlanta Falcons. Washington plus 2.5 at Atlanta. When I first saw this matchup, I was like, wow, these are mirror image teams, it seems like, right? Quarterbacks who we're not real sure about, good defense, good running game on both sides. I mean, so this should be a kind of a ground and pound type game. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so with that in mind, you brought up exactly what I was going to say. You have Sam Howell on one and Desmond Ridder on the other. Ridder finally had probably his best game of the year last week. Sam Howell still looking lost out there a little bit, right? He's kind of deer in the headlights. His offensive line isn't holding for him. He's, feeling the footsteps and all of that, and trying to do what he can, but not as effective. When it comes to the run game and the defense, I think the Falcons have been executing on defense better than Washington has. Washington has the better players, especially on the D-line, but they have not been executing that. We saw that in the Bills game. They didn't get anything. We saw that in the next couple games for them. So for me, I think the momentum itself, this is going to be a close game, don't get me wrong, but the momentum is all in the Falcons' favor. They have to control this game. I think they will. So give me Atlanta to win by at least 3 points. So I'll take Atlanta minus 2.5.
Yeah, I'm going to take Atlanta as well. Interesting stat here, though. Game-winning drives led by a quarterback on the season. Desmond Ridder, number 1 with 3. Sam Howell, number 2 with 2. So very interesting. The difference is that Sam Howell had that bad game against Buffalo, threw a lot of picks, right? So that's kind of messing up his stats. But another big one is the Washington Commanders have given up 29 sacks on the year. That's a major problem for me.
Yeah.
I'm taking Atlanta. If the sacks could be the difference in this game, I think it's going to be close, but I think Atlanta by 3. All right, next one, getting into the 4:00 games. The New England Patriots at the Las Vegas Raiders. New England plus 2.5 at Las Vegas. Very interesting to see Las Vegas the favorites in this one.
Well, we've literally seen nothing, as in goose eggs, from New England the past couple weeks, and Mac Jones. Oh my dear God, right? And it's just lovely to see. I am enjoying every minute of this. I thought that the Patriots would at least be respectable in some senses, and they're turning out not to be. And I'm kind of sad I didn't predict that preseason, but I'm enjoying every moment of it now because it's just fun to watch Bill Belichick squirm. When you're losing, you can't be the guy who just says nothing, right? You look like an asshat, which he is. So he's like, man, we're going back to the drawing board. Man, what are you going to change? Man, nothing. We're not going to change nothing. We're going back to the drawing board. So you're not going to make a big change, even though it's right there in your face that Mac Jones sucks right now. And, anybody would be a better option, be it Zappy or somebody else. But yeah, so that offense just is miserable right now, miserable territory. And at least the Raiders have an offense, right? They have the running back, they have the wide receiver, two of the best in the league. The Patriots defense has been letting them down as well. I think the Raiders fully capitalize on playing what right now is probably the worst all-around team in the NFL in New England. And even though they have Bill Belichick, I don't think they bounce back against somewhat of a lesser opponent in the Raiders. So give me the Raiders -2.5 and at home. And I really like this one as well.
Yeah, if you want to do a time warp and see what 2005 football looked like, this is the game for you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, these teams, their offenses are notoriously bad, and like these two guys have won a lot of Super Bowls together, right? Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick. Just seems the failure to adapt to modern football is the thing I keep hearing. A little bit of it's on Mac Jones, a little bit of it's on Jimmy Garoppolo, sure. But the problem I really have with both these guys, they refuse to change the offense. I watch the Raiders, and I still see plays that I recognize from 2010. The delayed handoff. Okay, how many times have we seen that play? Like, let it go, man. Anyway, New England team offense 23rd, Raiders 26th.
You went through it.
Passing offense, Raiders are 15th. Patriots are 17th. The rushing offense, which is supposed to be the best rushing team in the league, right? I thought the Josh McDaniels, Josh Jacobs matchup, that pairing would be great, and they'd have could run the ball effectively. We saw it last year. This year, Vegas 31st in the league, Patriots 25th. It's just ugly this season. Points per game. Las Vegas Raiders 15.8. They're 30th in the league.
Oh my
New England
goodness.
Patriots 11. They are 32nd.
So you're staying bet the under. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Just surprising. New England Patriots last one, they only score on 16% of their drives. That's dead last in the NFL. And the Raiders are 28%, and they're 28th in the league. So I mean, these are two supposed to be good coaches, right? And it's a little bit weird for me that they're that bad. You think they could pull something together, but
right. Well, I'd say somebody's going to get credit for winning this game, and it might be an ugly fashion or whatever, but this is not a game that I feel like you're going to feel good about winning either way, right? Like, okay, we got to win in the win column, but that is not indicative of the team we are or who we are in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I think I got to go New England here, though, just because Mac Jones is going to get run out of town if he doesn't play well in this game.
Yeah.
He's playing for his job, and I feel like the Raiders are they got a little bit of a pass, right, because it's a new quarterback and everything. But Mac Jones, I mean, this is it. He may be benched in this game.
Yeah. Everybody was so high on him last year. I wanted to sell all of his rookie cards I have. I should have, but I didn't.
Yeah. But he drafted 15th overall in the first round. I mean, there's expectation there, but I don't think anybody ever thought Mac Jones would be a top-tier quarterback. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or even above average. I mean, I think he is what everyone expected him to be. This is why people are like San Francisco should take him. A team like New England should take him. He's a system guy. And there's just only one Tom Brady, right? And so it's not even fair to compare them, but they're going to go through their struggles, but you have to evolve the offense. And we haven't seen that from the Patriots. What kind of weapons does he have? There's no one getting space for the New England Patriots, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Hunter Henry, maybe he didn't have any catches last week.
That's right.
And then
because he's the one guy you got to cover, right?
Right.
That's it.
But I mean, you do have some players with the Raiders. They just, again, I don't know what it is with them. They just can't get the ball moving. I think it's Garoppolo not seeing the field. He doesn't throw it at the outside very well. But both these teams have huge problems on offense. Anyway, spent too much time on that one. All right, let's go. Arizona Cardinals at the Los Angeles Rams. Almost said Raiders. Cardinals are +7 at LA. Who you like in this one?
I think the Rams have been hot this season and hotter than expected, I should say. They're not like, they're not the San Francisco 49ers by any means. But I really like their momentum. Cooper Kupp back again. So give me the Rams -7. I think this could be a game where they solidify that they are a team to be reckoned with still in the NFC. And it's against an inferior opponent. Always nice to bounce back. But I expect them to win by multiple touchdowns, really. Arizona's been impressive. Don't get me wrong, man. Josh Dobbs should absolutely get a starting job next year somewhere, right? But he unfortunately is playing with the worst roster in football and still getting things done. So I don't expect that to be enough to get over the Rams defense. And so productivity in the Rams corner, we'll see what Puka Nacua can do in this one and the rest of their weapons. So I expect it to be a big day for Matt Stafford and the Rams.
Yeah, I can see that. This is these cities are in close proximity. When we're talking about the western cities, are a lot farther away, but they're pretty close in proximity. It's a rival game. I think it's going to be close. I'm feeling 23-20 Rams, so I'm taking Arizona with the points. I just think Arizona's going to be in it. They've been playing mistake-free football at times. They really have their problems. They have no one to turn to, right? There's no identity there, but they play pretty efficient, like you said, with Josh Dobbs. I think that keeps the game close. All right, we have another good matchup, maybe the second on the docket here if you had to pick games to watch. But the Detroit Lions at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Detroit -3 at Tampa Bay. Detroit Lions 4-1. They've won 3 games in a row. Tampa Bay Buccaneers 3-1. They're 2-0 on the road. This game's in Tampa, so that don't matter. But
coming off a bye, yeah.
Coming off a bye, yeah. So who we like here?
Well, I mean, it goes unsaid that I've been high on the Lions. I've told you that they were going to be a contender in this league. I picked them to win a playoff game this year. I did not pick them to win the division, but it seems like they're on the course for that now as well. And I think they are going to be the true team that is finally going to expose Tampa Bay a little bit, right? So Tampa Bay has kind of had an easy road. They've been enjoying their success. But the Lions are no joke. I think this line of -3 is not enough. It should be closer to -7 in my mind. And for that reason, I'm high on taking Detroit -3 here. And I look for Baker to return to being Baker in this game, although it is being played in Tampa Bay, and he has really played well there, especially. But I think Tampa will still score points, but Detroit's defense is going to be ready, and Detroit's offense is going to control the game, I think. So give me Detroit -3 for sure. Not going to be as fun as you say it's going to be in my mind.
I mean, Tampa's playing well. I mean, with those receivers, Godwin and Mike Evans, as long as they're healthy, Tampa's got a chance to win any of those games. What I don't like is this, the Lions make you play their style of football, and it's tough, and it's grinded out, and I just don't think Tampa can do that. They're dead last in rushing. They have no run game whatsoever. So, yeah, I like the tough physicality of the Detroit Lions. I think that they're going to outmatch the Bucs with that, and I'll take the Lions. Yeah, Lions go 5-1. Could we see it?
Yes, I think so.
Looking
crazy
good for them. All right, Philadelphia Eagles travel to New Jersey to play the New York Jets. Philly is only -7 at the Jets. Let's expect that to be a little higher, but we have seen a little bit of life from the Jets, and recently. Zach Wilson getting better. I don't know. Sample size is small, but he definitely played a lot better last week. Any shot for the Jets on this game?
Not in my mind. They might be able to keep it close by keeping it low scoring. As we know, their defense is capable of anything and everything. So I think that's their chance to make it respectable. I don't think they missed their opportunity against Kansas City to get a win. I think they missed their opportunity to find that win against a team they weren't supposed to beat, if you will. And I don't think that's going to be the case with Philly. I think Philly's going to be able to do enough on offense despite that good defense to score at least a couple of times in the game. And I don't trust that the Jets are going to be able to do the same against Philly's defense, which is a lot better than some of the teams the Jets have played well so far. And for that reason, I'm taking Philly -7 and think it'll be comfortably, although the score might not be run up. I'd take the under in this one as well. I think it's going to remain low scoring, but I just don't see the Jets putting up a lot of points in this game.
Yeah.
So
And I
Philly
can see
minus
that.
7.
I'm taking Philly in a blowout, 27-7. And the reason is not the Jets defense. I think the Jets defense is formidable, and that's why the Philadelphia Eagles aren't going to score 40 in this one. But there's really two stats that stick out for me. Third down conversions. Philadelphia is 50%. They're second in the league in third down conversions. The Jets are dead last at 26%. They're 16 for 61 on third down. Horrible. And then scoring percentage, which we've talked about. What percentage do you score on drives? Jets are 26 and the Philadelphia Eagles are second. If the Jets offense doesn't produce or doesn't stay on the field, it could get out of hand real quick. And, what we've seen from the Jets is they just cannot sustain drives.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. You're not going to win a lot of games that way. The defense has kept them in it, and that's the reason they have a couple wins. But this Philly team's a complete football team, and with their defensive line and the Jets struggles on the offensive line, this could get ugly real quick. So I think it's a blowout, Eagles.
There you go.
All right, Monday Night Football. We already talked about the Bills-Giants on Sunday night. We're going into Monday night here. Actually, good matchup. Before the show, I was kind of complaining, as I do every year, about the prime time games being sluggish and who picks these. But I know you can't predict how the teams are gonna be, right? But this one looks like a good matchup, and this is a great selection by the NFL scheduling people. Give me a round of applause for that. Dallas at the LA Chargers. Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator for Dallas for a number of years now, offensive coordinator for the Chargers. This should be a good matchup. What's your thoughts on this one?
My thoughts are contender or pretender, right? That's what I feel about this game. The Dallas got blown out of the water. The Chargers, we've seen inconsistency on defense. Their offense is going well, but the inconsistency on defense for sure. Dallas desperately needs this win, but I think the Chargers are the better team, just plain and simple. I don't trust Dak Prescott in any situation for any reason, right? And Justin Herbert is playing very, very well this year. And for that reason, I think Dallas is going to lose this game by a touchdown or more. It might be close, at times they might battle it out. But again, I give the edge to Dallas's defense, but the offense of the Chargers. I know that kind of sounds counterintuitive. The limitations of the Dallas's offense, I think, is going to be the difference in this game. And the Chargers are going to be able to score enough to make it, stay in control of the game.
And that's what the NFL is. This is a great example of what, a franchise quarterback does for an NFL team, right? Herbert's just going to make more plays than Dak Prescott, period. Maybe it comes down to a drive or two. We've seen this dozens of times with Dak. They get the opportunity to win, and something goes wrong, boneheaded play, whatever it is, doesn't make the play on fourth down, like 4th and 3 or something. Herbert makes those plays. When it's 3rd and 20, he makes those plays, and that'll be the difference in this game. So I'm taking the Chargers by 10.
There you go.
That's all we got.
Wow, we went through the whole slate, huh? That was pretty good. There's some good matchups this week, but overall, we'll see if it works out the way we're expecting. There's always a few surprises every weekend, but this was one week where I kind of am like feeling pretty confident in the picks I made, which might be a bad thing. Who knows? We'll see. But I can tell you my pick 6, I'm excited to, I know I mentioned some of them, but I'm excited for this week's pick 6. Last week was mediocre, 3-3, but I want to definitely put a stamp on it with this one this week. And I felt like there was even more games that I could have chosen, especially for those bottom few picks. The top couple feel good about, but those bottom few, there was others that I felt just as confident with.
Yeah. You can find Anthony's 6 best bets of the week. It usually runs on our social media. It's on our YouTube channel. Be sure to check that out and get paid.
There you go. Keep the momentum going.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for tuning in with us. Be sure to look out for Anthony's pick 6. That'll be coming out here shortly. And have a great weekend, and we will see you for the Buffalo Morning Brew next Tuesday.
Yes. Thanks for kicking it with us.